Welcome to your Competency Ground School. This is a blended learning system that uses online tools and in-class exercises to ensure that you can actually perform a skill and not just have the knowledge then struggle in the aircraft. I believe that if you can be lectured to, it can be video lectured, and this allows the student to learn on their own schedule and allows them to pause and rewind and learn at their own pace as well. But online classrooms have their limitations, obviously. So we combine it with in-person live exercises to build the skill. This video is part one of 3 video lectures designed to help you become more competent and confident in your radio procedures before getting into the aircraft. You'll be asked to pause at times and complete exercises. You'll be asked to complete quizzes and self-correct to 100%, and you will be asked to attend the in-person skills training in the classroom. Listen to the videos and watch the slides and we can get going. It is important to understand that this video lecture is being recorded in one take. So if I flub my words, if I make any mistakes, then you can just pretend it's an in-person lecture. So let me share my screen so we can get going. All right, here we are. Once again, this is radio procedures training. By the end of this lesson, you will learn and practice how to use the radio. It's pretty obvious why we want to do it, right? The outline that we're going to cover and the items that we're going to cover are these, but using the radio involves understanding the system in place for the pilots and the entire industry built to support those pilots. You can learn how to drive a car just by learning the car, but you won't be successful in driving in a city without understanding the system and the rules. You must fit into the system for safety because there are thousands of airplanes out there, all that need support from the air traffic system and its services. So parts of the system that you need to understand are, well, number one, the reference material where you can answer your own questions. We're going to cover a little bit of the radio history and the evolution, but we don't get into too much background superfluous information. We're going to try to only cover the items that you need to understand in the airplane. We will be covering basic theory of radio and frequencies and the organization of those frequencies and the use of the equipment. We'll cover what services are available for you in flight, and of course, the specific things to say and do while communication with everyone around you for maximum professionalism and safety. All right, so here's your reference material. This lesson is not designed to cover all items required to pass the written examination. This lesson is designed to have you be competent in the aircraft. Some items will be missed, and therefore these study guides are essential. The 2 main guides that you're looking at are the NAV Canada VFR Phraseology Handbook. That's the orange one. The purple and blue one are also put out by NAV Canada and can be used later on. But your main concern is going to be the orange one. The second one is the Industry Canada Study Guide for Restricted Operator Certificate with Aeronautical Qualification. Oh, that's a mouthful. It means it's the official study guide that you need to get your radio operator's license. And you need a radio operator's license before you can go solo or by yourself in the airplane. Please keep in mind that NAV Canada and Industry Canada are not Transport Canada. These guides are available for free, but not from the Transport Canada website. And these guides are for you for before, during, and after your training. If you have a question or confusion, always relate to the written text before asking your instructor. All right, so a little bit about the history, not very much, but a little bit. Right now, there are more than 100,000 commercial flights every day worldwide. This is a pre-COVID number, but we are definitely getting back there. And it means that millions of interactions take place between pilots and air traffic controllers every day. Today, aviation communication seems to be a very simple thing to do. However, it was one of the most complicated things during the early stages. Since December 17th, 1903, when the Wright brothers made their first successful flight in history, communication with pilots in the air has been a real challenge. The crews on the ground initially relied on colored paddles and signal flares and hand signs, and I like to say interpretive dance, and other visual aids to communicate with the aircraft. And although these methods were effective for ground crews, there was actually no way of allowing the pilots to communicate back. So Wireless telegraphy was then developed, which is Morse code. At first, they allowed to send messages from the ground to the air and later from the air to the ground. That option was introduced as well. In April of 1915, Captain J.M. Furnival was the first person to hear a voice from the ground from Major Prince, who said, "If you can hear me now, it will be the first time speech has ever been communicated to an airplane in flight." I like being dramatic because it entertains myself. I don't know if it did for you. But today, every plane is equipped with the latest communication technologies. Thus, each aircraft in the air is tracked by air traffic control towers using radar and satellite technologies. There are many ways to communicate, but the most simple and the cheapest option currently in general aviation is the VHF simplex radio system. This means that only one person can talk at a time, but this is old technology, obviously, because the telephone is a duplex system. The telephone is a way that two people can talk at the exact same time. But in aviation, if we had everybody with the ability to talk at the same time, it would be mass confusion. So the simplex system is still in place because it's simple and it reduces confusion. The second major system used for communication is the UHF, and that's military. We will not be discussing that here. Okay, so now we're going to get into the organization of radio frequencies. The VHF radio is divided into many ranges to allow for different frequencies. Think about this like the different number frequencies on the radio dial in your car. All right, 97.7, let's pretend, is a country station, and 105.4 is the rock station. In aviation, we have similar designations, but we can group them together to make it easier for these designations. So we have a section of bands or numbers, and then of course the service that it provides, or sorry, the service that it is assigned to. So what does this tell you? If you take a look at this list and look at the three different assignments for air traffic control, what does that tell you about traffic congestion? Perhaps that air traffic control is very important. These bands might be tested on your written, but again, this is not to study for the written. However, it does provide useful information. All right, so the first of our band groupings, is the lowest band, and it starts on our list as an aid to navigation, traditional nav aid, an aid to navigation. The one shown here is called an ADF. It's automatic direction finder. It is essentially a compass that points to a radio beacon. This machine can also pick up AM radio stations, but we aren't going to go through just how to use it right now. There are more than this device utilizing the band for traditional nav aids and things like VOR and DME, VORTAC, LoRaNC, and more. But for now, all you need to understand for your life and for maybe part of the written is that there are entire bands of frequencies used for nav aids, and it's this one. The second nav aid that we're going to talk about, not within the first band, is a special one called ILS. It stands for Instrument Landing System. And it's considered precision equipment. Therefore, it should not and shall not ever share a section of frequencies with any other type. It needs to have the utmost dedication to precision and prevent confusion. Okay, next we have the band and this band, and the service is air traffic services. As previously discussed, air traffic service has many options for assignments. Have you figured out why they need so many? Traffic congestion. Since that first flight, oh so long ago, there has been seen an increase from one airplane in the sky to hundreds of thousands. Having someone on the ground watching out for you is now essential. Now, on this slide, I've only listed 2 of the 3 that I had previously mentioned. You get to pause and rewind and remind yourself, what is the missing band for air traffic services? We're going to be covering exactly what the air traffic services are in just a moment. Next, we have not a full band, but a single frequency. This one frequency is a lifesaver, literally. It's checked before every flight, it's checked after every flight, and is monitored if possible during the flight. And it's used by you in an emergency. It's pretty obvious why it has its own selection. We cannot confuse it with any other frequency. 121.5 or 121.5 is your emergency brand to make those calls on. I said brand, I meant frequency, band. All right, service, emergency. So next we have communication. This is air-to-air communication. Whether you're at an uncontrolled airport whether you're speaking on a mandatory frequency or anything else where pilots need to talk to people other than air traffic controller service or emergency, we have an entire section of band assigned for that. Okay, then we have aeronautical, operational, control, communications. This is a special section reserved for massive companies that need to talk to home base to make preparation for their passengers. If they didn't have their own set of frequencies, they would use random unassigned ones, and the confusion would be complete. All right, now we get into specific air service professionals. So these are the people on the other end of the radio in the air traffic services section. We will first discuss things you need to know to be able to speak and expect, and then we'll break down how many services there are and what each one does. As discussed already, the radios used for general aviation right now use a simplex system, which means that unlike a telephone, only one person can talk at a time. Does the technology exist where more than one person can talk at a time? Of course, it's a telephone, that's a duplex system. But imagine if everyone was talking all at once. Having 500 open channels would be chaos, and it would do more harm than good. So the simplex system is still in use. There is technology where pilots and air traffic controllers can text each other, and it's becoming more popular, but so far it's just too much of a task for single pilot operations. Inside the system, obviously, it is of the utmost importance to keep your transmission when you are speaking as short as possible and as clear as possible. This means that you even have to limit unnecessary words. So in the files, you'll see an audio file called radio calls number 1. Listen to the 2 radio calls and see if you can understand why being short and clear is necessary. Pause now, go take a look. So I'm going to assume that you paused the video and now you're back. So the first is of a pilot who speaks too much. When the controller finally speaks, he is rapid fire trying to fix all of the control issues from the aircraft who flew too far without instructions. But that's in a controlled environment. We have uncontrolled environments where you're expected to know the exact phrases because expectation tells you everything about where the other person is doing. Imagine if you hear on the radio that a plane is coming into Medicine Hat and the flight service station is closed, right? You hear the other aircraft is at this specific position, but he didn't complete the standard phraseology of telling you what altitude. You look around because you're at that exact position and you start panicking. But what he should have said is that he was at 12,000 feet and you are at 2,000 feet, and there's obviously no conflict. So having the standard phraseology and knowing what to expect and saying it properly is important. So now, like learning any new language, you start with the alphabet. We use letters to identify many, many things. Airplanes have names and radio frequencies and stations. Aviation uses acronyms and letter identifiers for almost everything. Even longer names are contracted to short letters when writing things down. For example, if you flew a Beechcraft King Air 200 series, you can't write all of that in your logbook, so we contract it to B200. Aviation loves contractions, and that's because of when Morse code was a thing, and we had to shorten it to save time. However, that is a very, very specific thing. Let's pretend you're now talking to an air traffic service, and they tell you to fly directly to Two Docks. And so you're looking on your map for Two Docks. Well, how is that spelled? What are you supposed to look for? So is it spelled Toodux or Tutukx? It's very confusing. You can ask the person on the other end of the line to spell it for you, and they will give you the phonetic alphabet. Okay? Plus, you look kind of cool to non-aviation people if you know it. So the phonetic alphabet is used for identification. It does eliminate confusion, obviously, and there's some rules and guidelines. Now, I am going to go through this list once. If you need to hear me say it again, because of the beauty of video, you can pause and rewind and do it again. After I'm done, you get the practice of spelling your last name phonetically. So I'll go through the alphabet. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo, Lima, Mike, November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, uniform, Victor, whiskey, X-ray, Yankee, and Zulu. If you need to hear it again, feel free to pause and head back, but your exercise now is to spell your name phonetically. You can start with your last name, you can do your whole name, and here's a little tip and a little trick. When I was learning the phonetic alphabet for the first time, I would walk down the street and spell all of the road signs phonetically as fast as I could, and I would do that over and over and over again. My first name is Kim, and therefore phonetically it's spelled Kilo, India, Mike. My full name is Kimberly. Kilo, India, Mike, Bravo, Echo, Romeo, Lima, Yankee. All right, now you try. Moving on. Numbers are basically the same as you would say them normally, with the exception of 3, which is contracted to tree, and fife and niner. It's important to know that air traffic service will use niner and fife. However, pilots are not really required to use these terms, even though you may use them. But 9 and 5 is fine. When we talk about individual numbers and we talk about thousands, we'll probably always be talking about whole thousands, unless it's on the 500. We can spell 5,500 by saying exactly that, 5,500, but we will never say 5,520. We round up to the whole thousands or the 500. When we say the individual digits, we separate the digits. For example, 11,000 would be 1,000. Any other digits are separated even more. So if I were to say 870, it would be separated to 870. If you have a number with a decimal in it, for example, radio frequency, the decimal is read aloud. On the bottom of the screen there, you can see 29.95, 29.95, not 29.95, it's 29.95, okay? Radio procedures. Now, please turn to page 5 of your NAV Canada Phraseology Handbook. If you haven't Googled it and found the link, you can type out that link exactly right now. And it's going to cover a page of standard words and phrases. Please pay special attention to the words affirmative, check, disregard, expedite, negative, say again, unable, and my personal favorite that many people get wrong, Roger. It's not what you think it is. So go take a look and study those and then come back to the video. Next, most normal small aircraft have, they're a type of aircraft and a 4-letter identification when you're talking to not only other people on the radio, but making plane broadcasts, okay? For example, we're going to be covering identification call signs. For example, if I was in a Cessna 172 and my call sign was Foxtrot or FKIM, my name, because I like pretending that that one is mine, then the example would be Cessna 172 Foxtrot Kilo India Mike. So this is my call sign. I'm not going to say, hi guys, my name is Kim on the radio. We're going to use what's printed on the outside of your airplane because it's legal and it's necessary. The airlines often have call signs of their own because it goes with their company. Air traffic controllers do need to know which company it is. If they were to say Foxtrot Kilo India Mike, they have no way of looking up very quickly if it was WestJet or Air Canada or Delta, United or KLM or whatever it is. So they use their own specific call signs. Can you make your own call sign even if you're in small general aviation aircraft? Yes, you can. It's not entirely necessary, but you absolutely can, as long as you pre-identify yourself on your flight plan with NAV Canada. Now, heading back to the airline example, instead of WestJet saying they are Golf, Golf, Alpha, Delta, they would say WestJet 122 or WestJet 345, Air Canada 452. They can also use the word heavy. Okay, so the large aircraft, if they use the identifiers heavy, this indicates an aircraft weight over 136,000 kilograms or 300,000 pounds. So if it says Air Canada 001 heavy, or even super, let's say Qantas 650 Super, what this tells you is that that airplane is displacing a lot of air, and getting too close in behind it would be dangerous for your health. You can refer to your regulations video for exactly why, or how far behind that aircraft you need to be. All right. When you first initially contact any air traffic service unit, you must identify yourself using your full identification, your full call sign, okay? Air traffic service can abbreviate your call sign if they want to. I call up and I say, I'm Cessna 172, Foxtrot Kilo India Mike. If they contract that or abbreviate it to simply Kilo India Mike, if they do it, I can do it. If they don't do it, I'm not allowed to do it, okay? Moving on. Next, please head to your quiz folder. Go to the quiz named Radio 1. When you're done that quiz called Radio 1, it's self-correct to 100%. It's an open book exam. Nobody's staring over your shoulder. Just want to make sure the information gets in. After that's done, come back here and head over to video number